Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Should probably make myself visible. Welcome everybody to the live stream. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for following. First thing I want to say right off the bat, anything look different? Look a little different? Spent all freaking weekend cleaning and reorganizing everything and moving things around. So you might also notice, ooh, we're a lot more centered up here. Everything's looking a lot cleaner in the background. Chat, the things I do to make you happy. Anyway, so there might be in the future a potential Lulu sighting on the couch at some point as well. She doesn't always sleep on the couch, but sometimes she likes to go up there. So we'll see. Guys, one more thing I want to say right off the bat, because I was outside a few minutes ago and I saw some homeless people struggling to put up a tent in the crappy weather we are having today. And I realized something. If you hear my voice cracking, it's because it's emotional to me. Is that, man, I can't do it. I can't be on this planet and know that there is no reason for people to be struggling like what I just witnessed with my own 2 eyes. There is no reason for people to be outside in the cold, in the rain, struggling with a cart, grocery cart, trying to put up a tent. Shouldn't have to be a thing. The number one reason, probably even more than the families of MH370, on why I do this, could be boiled down to homeless people. It shouldn't have to be a thing. We have the technology to obsolete all of that. The United States government does, and they're sitting on it. They're sitting on it for a lot of reasons, and they're not giving it to us. And that's the number one reason why, even though I'll be the very first person to tell you that the videos we're about to review tonight are the biggest national security risk in the history of the world, that we're still just going to expose it straight up. Straight up. That's the plan. So, my intro previously was going to be, if you're new to this, you're probably wondering, is all this shit real? Is all this shit you've been talking about real, with these plane videos and these orbs spinning around the plane? Is all this stuff real? And the answer I'm here to tell you is yes. Yes, it's real. I have no vested interest in it being real. I have no vested interest in wormholes being real. I have no vested interest in aliens or anything like that. I don't care. I also don't care what the answer to the missing plane is. I'm just as happy with the answer being pilot suicide. It's not. Or orbs teleporting into the Xenu dimension. All I want is the truth. That's all I've cared about. So here's the plan tonight. Actually, a little bit more background. a few days ago, I saw a video about magnetic inversion that was on Brian Rammel's channel. And I had seen it before, but it triggered me and reminded me that I needed to look into this. And I started to dig into it. And the first thing I realized is, holy shit, this is how the orbs are sticking together. And that was basically the catalyst for everything we're going to review here tonight. So let me just share this with you right off the bat. Just for the record, we have a lot of science in general, just like on the docket. If you've been following and watching streams, there's a lot of science to go over. And I'm basically going through it at a pace in which I can learn it and absorb it and teach it to you guys at a high level of degree of confidence, where I'm not going to get a lot of stuff wrong. So here's the video.
It consists of just 4 neodymium discs. It's called an inverter by the inventor, and it consists of just 4 neodymium discs, which are very strong magnets. And then curiously here we have a ring containing 6 very small neodymium magnets. And now to make the effect, we simply have to join these pieces together. That's quite strong now. And this one here, oh, that's a strong one. To show how strong they are, we'll just bring it together and see what happens. It's going to push it away from quite a distance. Anyway, we want it to be attracting, so I'm going to put it in that mode there when it's going to come towards it. We'll keep it away. Now the ring here, we're going to get this into repulsion mode to try and get it to push away. Oh, it's attracting. So I'll turn it over, and now it should repel. Yes, it's repelling. Now the clever part is when we put these 2 pieces together as an assembly, we've now got a single magnetic system in which we have one that's going to be attracted to this, and a little set of ring of 6 which are being repelled by this outside magnet. What's going to happen? When I bring this towards it, it's being attracted to the middle one, but it's being repelled by the little satellite ones on the outside.
So what's going to happen, chat? What is going to happen here? We've now created a new kind of magnet on the right. Our magnet on the right has one polarity in the middle, and it has an opposite polarity on the edges. So you could imagine that in the middle, it's a plus. And you can imagine on the edges on the outside, it has a minus. So now is it going to attract or is it going to repel? Which is it going to do? Both.
Oh, it was attracted and it stopped. It's being repelled. There's about an 1/8 or 1/4 inch air gap there now where it can't get any closer, but not further away either. If I turn this one, well, nothing much there. If I turn the big one, though, as a ring, let's see what happens. It turns
that part right there is my favorite.
Still maintaining that
Look
air gap of about 1/8 to 1/4 inch.
If you turn it, it stays locked in orientation, not just a distance, but locked in orientation.
It's called an inverter by the inventor.
So yes, wow, indeed. Because you can look at that, anybody can look at that and go, whoa, that looks really similar to the MH370 videos. In fact, how many different ways can there even be to lock in 3 objects in a perfect triangle? How many ways can there be to do that? It looks so unnatural when you see it on video. As far as I can tell, there is only one way. Magnetic inverter must be what the orbs are doing. And at the same time, I saw that video. People were suggesting to me, and they had been suggesting for a while. So if you're one of these people who's been, Ashton, I told you that, I told you that. Okay, you told me that. They said, what about a double layer plasma? What about a double layer plasma? What would double layer plasma be? A double layer plasma would look just like the magnet on the right. You have one region, maybe on the inside, where you have the positive charge. And then on the outside, you have the negative charge. And the positive and the negative charge are separated in 2 different double layer plasma. Now we know what non-equilibrium plasma means. What was Sal saying when he kept saying we have to make non-equilibrium plasmas? Because an equilibrium plasma all the charges would equalize. But what Sal's saying is we can separate the charges and we create a non-equilibrium plasma. Well, what's the nature of this non-equilibrium plasma? What are its properties going to be? Well, if we have a positive and a negative separated, it might look just like a magnet inverter that we just witnessed. What are the chances, chat, that a double layer plasma might work just like a magnetic inverter, which is that looks exactly like what we visually see with the orbs in this triangle formation? And not just the MH370 videos, but like all videos of orbs in a triangle formation might be using this exact same technology and functionality. Now, the other thing I want to mention here, two more things I want to mention before we start digging into this. Oh, don't worry, there is a lot to go through tonight, chat. If you were eager for some conceptual putting together all the puzzle pieces that we've been working through, tonight is the night. Tonight is the night. So here's another thought. The plasma. How is the plasma produced in the MH370 videos? And we're going to look at the videos in just a second, but I need to set some of the stage for you. How is the plasma produced? Sal says you could use attosecond lasers. But what did we learn from sonoluminescence? From sonoluminescence, we learned there's a way to transduce sound, acoustic energy, into light. We learned that sound wave can make light under the right conditions. So why do we need a laser at all? Is it possible that just with resonance and motion, just with those things, that in a plasma we might be able to produce like a singularity, for lack of a better term, produce some type of extremely powerful, energetic event? This is me really out there speculating, but I'm just throwing it out there. And the reason why I'm saying that is I don't feel like there's high-powered lasers inside the orbs. If that's the case, they must have some other mechanism to produce the plasma, or they're being shot out of cannons or something like that. So there's something there that I'm not sure about. Now, the last part is this. Going back to the magnet theory. So now, each one of our orbs is a magnet. They now have a positive and a negative side to them. Now, it might be like a shell within a shell, but there's a positive and negative aspect to our orb. Well, when I spoke to Avi Loeb, Harvard astrophysicist, one of the things that for some reason sticks out in my mind is I said, could these orbs be getting controlled by magnetohydrodynamic flow? Meaning controlling magnetism to the pinpoint level where you can move the plasma around. And he said yes. He said yes. So then I thought, wait a minute. Let's make some very basic assumptions, some pretty safe assumptions. First, let's assume, for the sake of simplicity, that the plasma orbs are weightless. It's a ball of plasma. Why is it going to weigh a lot? Let's just assume that it weighs nothing. Now, how much force would it really take to get these plasma orbs to spin around the plane? If they were locked in with that magnetic inversion, I feel like it wouldn't take very much at all. In fact, I feel like if you were to really visualize it in front of you, these like free floating plasmas in a triangle, you might just give it a little nudge. In fact, I think they can control the motion after they've locked in by simply changing the orientation of the spin of the orb. Just by changing the orientation of the spin, on all they have to do there. Imagine a device inside of it that's like a donut, a metal donut that is on a gyroscope, so it can move freely in any direction. And this donut focuses the electromagnetic field through the center of it. Through the center of it. And it's inside the orb, and it can move in any axis all around. Now, these orbs are a system. They're a system of batteries, of dipoles. And all I have to do to make them do different things is just change the spin. You could say this orientation is orientation number 1, up and down. And you might say, okay, well, and maybe we have multiple, right? And I wish I had some more props here. We have multiple. We say, okay, maybe we change their orientations like this. This is all we have to do. We change their orientations like this, and they're going to change the way they act. And I realized something else. At the end of the videos, and we're going to watch them right after this, the orbs come together right before the zap. And I went, well, if that's the case, all they have to do is change the orientation, then all they have to do to come together is just change the orientation so they go from spinning in a circle to you change the magnetic field lines, and they're naturally just going to collapse. Naturally going to collapse. So if you really boil it down, my theory is there's a control mechanism where you just say these orbs are in orientation formation 1, formation 1, formation 2, formation 3, formation 4. Formation 1 might be spinning around in a circle around the plane. Formation 2 might be vertical around the plane. Formation 3 might be that the orbs are going to collapse onto the plane, create a singularity. Holy shit. Chad, if you're amazed, it's about to get even more fucking crazy. That's my F-bomb for the day. There was a point where I was reading through the AI where I actually had a tear come in my eye because I was like, this is like, I was feeding the AI information. The AI hadn't even seen the videos yet. And the AI was giving back the answers without seeing the videos. Part of the reason why I decided to make tonight's topic about this AI conversation, even though it's not all about it, is because I realized over the course of this conversation, I was wrong. The AI is going to be able to prove these videos are real pretty much the moment we can upload video to the AI. Because the movements of the orbs in these videos is going to be 100% prove that those are magnets, real magnets, that those orbs are real balls of energy. Because we can see the heat signature in the videos. And if the heat signature in the videos of the orbs, as they're moving around the plane, is consistent with what physics says should happen, proves the videos are real. There's no way that somebody would have been able to figure out the physics of how these energetic orbs are going to interact under complex magnetic fields. No one could have ever come up with that. The AI can barely come up with it. Now in 2025. I realized what I was reading and I went, oh shit, we're going to talk about it tonight. So that is the impetuous. Now, before we even get to that, I want to look at, I'm going to skip that. Oh, so the other thing that the orbs are doing, I think I have a clip of this. Let me visualize exactly how the orbs are moving. It's actually so simple. It's crazy. Here it is.
To release my left hand and holding on.
I'm going to mute it. This is how the orbs are moving around. This is the magnetohydrodynamic flow. This is what they do inside of the orb with the plasma. And then what does it do? Weightlessness. But it's not really weightless. Still obeying the laws of physics. It's just a clever use of physics. So with spin, by moving the plasma around, they have full 360-degree control over the direction of these orbs. And because the orbs are relatively weightless or weightless, entirely weightless, they can just float and do whatever the hell they want, go wherever the hell they want. Okay, there's another video out there of the Action Lab, but we're going to skip past it, I think, tonight. The Action Lab also shows that you can create the same magnetic coupling by spinning a magnet. If you just spin the magnet, you can actually get it so that something will get stuck, suspended in the midair. Suspended in mid-air. Actually, I'll show a few seconds of it so I don't want to tease you guys. I feel bad. I just teased you. Where is it? Okay, here we go. So this is important. Why? Why am I bringing this up? Because the orbs are spinning. So the orbs aren't just a ball of energy, but they're spinning as well. So absolutely, then this is going to mean that the spin and the rotation of the orbs is connected to its stabilization. This is a really crazy ass detail, right? We can tell that the actual spin of the orbs in the MH370 videos is directly connected to this effect right here. Magnetic levitation. Boom. Look at that. Look at it. It's locked in, levitating in free space. And the only thing that's happening, the only thing he did was just spin the magnet. Just spinning the magnet on a drill. Now imagine our orbs are spinning. So our orbs are spinning as well. You can imagine that these orbs could basically spin and lock in on an object, just the same way that this spinning magnet locks in on that other magnet. Heck, does that even have to be a magnet? I think it's just a ball of iron, potentially. Or maybe I have it backwards. I think the thing on the drill is iron, but you get the idea, right? Yes, wow, indeed, chat. So now you're starting to see the concepts come together, right? Now we're seeing, okay, wait, shit, these are literally, these balls of plasma we're about to look at are literally balls of energy. They're literally double-layered plasmas, cold non-equilibrium plasmas. We know what this means now. This means they've got separated positive and negative charge. And the more positive and negative charge that's separated, the more powerful those lightning bolts are. The more energy there is. So why are there 3 of them? Well, because they want to combine them into something even more powerful than any individual one of those orbs. And the other thing we know now is that these orbs are all exactly the same. I mean, maybe there's a few molecules that are off, but they're the same thing. That seems like a very obvious thing to say, but it's important because they're creating a perfect symmetrical situation and they have perfect control over their magnetic fields in different configurations to do what they want to do. Let's look at this. Tonight, we're going to look at the MH370 videos. Now, let me pull up first the satellite video. Now, what I want to point out in the satellite video, oh, that was cool. What I want to point out in the satellite video is the first orb as it comes flying in here. Look how fast this bad boy comes in. This first orb has to be the orb that's locking into the plane. Why do I say that? How can I be confident? Watch what this orb that's kind of in the middle center of the screen, watch what this orb does. Look at that. It rotated next to the plane. This is a huge giveaway. So it flies past the plane and then it comes back at it, almost like a rubber band or like a boomerang. It looks like a boomerang, but then it spins around the side of the plane. and then it goes around, then it loops around the plane. No question, this orb is locking into the plane. Exactly. Recalibrating, locking in, setting the target, whatever terminology you want to use, that's what this thing is doing here. Right? So you see it go flying right past. It's like, okay, I'm going to fly past this plane. Let's go back a few more seconds. It flies past the plane and then immediately comes back. And now it spins around the plane and then it goes and makes a full rotation. Now watch the second and the third orbs. How can we be sure the first one is locking in? Because the second orb goes straight at the plane. Now, the second orb is going to come out of the water and around the lower middle of the screen right now. And it shoots up through the cloud. And here's the weird part that I can't get past. I'm curious to know your guys' opinions on this. Yeah, this plane is not going 500 miles an hour, by the way. This is going about 100 to 200 miles an hour. It's pretty slow. It's turning and it's descending. Look at those orbs at the top of the screen right there. Look at those orbs right there. Doesn't it look like two of the orbs are already in triangle formation? It's like, here's your triangle formation. Now let me just take off like one side of it, right? It looks like two orbs and they're just like missing the third orb. That's what that looks like right there. Now, we can't be sure because the third orb comes in really fast. So it almost looks like the first orb already figured out the pattern. The first orb like locked into the plane. And the second and third orbs, watch how fast this third orb shows up. The third orb shows up like immediately, and it immediately goes straight into triangle formation. No delay, no spinning around the plane. It's like, there's the spot I'm going to go to. I'm going right at it. That's the part I have the hardest time explaining. Now, the third orb makes sense because the first and second orbs are probably creating this magnetic field where it's just like getting attracted to that point and then just sticking in there and getting stuck in there. And then now you've got your perfect triangle. But the second orb, why does the second orb go into triangle formation before the third orb's there? I don't have the answer to that, and I don't have the answer to everything that's out there. As for the people, I'm not going to go dig into all of MH370 stuff. Do you think that when you're landing an airplane or when your airplane's taking off that it's going to crash because you're at stall speeds? Just keep in mind that airplane is flying low, turning, and descending. So keep in mind as well, when you turn a car, an airplane, any object, you generally have to go slower because you accelerate when you turn. So just think about that. Okay, back to the videos. And then we'll do a couple super chats. This shit gets wild. So we saw the third orb just get right into triangle formation. And it's going to be fun to look at the second video. Now, here's where my theory kind of kicks in. So I think that what's happening here now, and this will make more sense when we look at the second video, is that these orbs get to like we're ready to go. We're locked in, ready to go position. And that's when their formation changes right here. Is where now all of a sudden they're rotating around the plane. I think there's a moment, and it's hard to figure out the exact moment, but sometime like right after the third orb gets in here, where they lock into an orientation and now they change their formation. So imagine their first formation is target and lock-in mode. After lock-in mode, after they're all in the triangle formation, now they have formation number 2. Formation number 2 is spinning around the plane in 360 degrees around the plane. Let's watch it. They're spinning around the plane all directions here. This actually, they go through the smoke trail at one point over there as well. So they're spinning around the plane all here, and then they start to shift to vertical formation here. I'm gonna pose a hypothetical. I have a reason for why they are spinning around the plane, and it's not what my old thought was. I have a brand new one. My brand new thought is the reason why they're spinning around the plane is they are locking in to the location of the fourth orb. They are essentially doing the same thing that autopilot does. How does an airplane that's flying in the sky know its position above the Earth so that it can stay perfectly level to its orientation of the Earth? How does it know that? It uses a gyroscope. It uses a gyroscope to know exactly where it exists in space and time above the planet. This is what the orbs are doing when they're mapping the plane and spinning around it like this. They're spinning around it because they're trying to figure out where that plane and they exist in three-dimensional space relative to where the fourth orb or the destination point is in three-dimensional space. I'm even more confident now that it is actually teleportation we're seeing in this video. Because if this was an annihilation event, these orbs would just get into triangle formation and then converge on the plane, and then it's game over. But instead, they do this dance around the plane. Why are they dancing around the plane? As somebody else pointed out, they're doing vector math. They're saying, okay, if I spin around, oh, boom, there's where the fourth orb is. There's where the fourth orb is. And then, just like my rubber bands are gone because I cleaned up everything. Then what's happening is they're saying, oh, the fourth orb is over here. Okay. They spin around the plane in 3 dimensions. Oh, by the way, where is it? Oh, chat. Are you? I don't know if this is going to get me sued. I hope not. Wait for it. Oh, yes, chat. Look at the upgrades to my props. Oh, yes. Okay. So, sorry, where were we at? I already forgot. Okay, yes. So, the orbs are spinning around our plane, and they're trying to figure out, oh, the fourth orb is way back here. Okay, so they spin around the plane, and that tells them that the fourth orb is here. And now they know, okay, we have to spin vertically around the plane at this axis to make sure that we end up right there where that orb is. That's my new theory. Bye, Delta plane. Good luck to you. My new theory is that they're mapping it to not to determine the mass of the plane or the size of the plane itself. They already know all that. They can Google and figure out how heavy a plane is, Boeing 777. They're doing it because they want to figure out where the fourth orb is, where they're going to go. Let's think about that. Okay, let's look at that one more time. And actually, tonight's not even really about the zap, if I'm being honest with y'all. Tonight's more about what these orbs are doing and how they're pulling it off, right? So now look at it again and look at it from the perspective of them trying to like figure out where that fourth orb is. It could be anywhere, right? The fourth orb could be anywhere. Yeah, when the fourth orb is. Exactly. It's not where, but it's even when. Where and when the fourth orb is. I want to point out one last really interesting detail about these videos. This is an important one, chat. I'm going to play the video from about right here. Not only are the orbs in vertical formation here, they're in vertical formation. Watch the speed of the orbs. Watch the speed closely. Okay, I'm going to play it a couple times. They just slowed down. You can see them going slower right there. You can see the orbs slow down when they get to this cloud. Once they get to this cloud, they start going slower. They're spinning around the plane slower at the last moment. That's a weird ass detail. Why are they slowing down or whatever they do right there? Clearly, if I were to just speculate, the reason why they're doing it has to be related to the zap. Has to be related to when they come in on the plane. Because we know from the other video that they're converging. There's another version of that. If you had a hard time seeing it, which I totally understand, I have another version that should make it really clear. So this one, watch it. So you can see the orb slow down right there. And when I say slow down, they're slowing down as they spin around the plane. I'll play it one more time for you guys. Oh, that's not even the right one. Well, whatever. You can see they slow right there. So they slow kind of right after they get to this cloud here. Right here's where they begin to slow down. You can kind of see them slow down right there pretty clearly. So the orbs slow down. Pretty weird. Could there be temporal warping? Somebody actually pointed out before. Maybe, but I don't think so. Let me do a couple super chats. Fortune, thank you very much for that super sticker. I appreciate you. That's awesome. Leslie, thank you for that huge donation. I appreciate you very much, Leslie. Cocktail supplies for massive Yahtzee. Wearing my 4 Orbs hat and celebrate. Hell yeah. I got my 4 Orbs hat right there above my fireplace, chilling right now. I love it. And then David R says, can plasma actually produce a magnetic field? Absolutely. A non-equilibrium plasma that has the negative and positive separated will produce a magnetic field. In fact, it can produce a very powerful one. And this goes back, while we're not going to talk about it too much tonight, the origin is the EVO theory by Ken Shoulders, is that he saw these negative charges condensing together, which is the same as saying that you're seeing charge separation. In fact, they called it condensed charge research. And I think in some cases they used charge separation as well as a name for it. Now, the next video, the drone video, let's look at it from the same perspective that we just looked at the previous video. I'm going to, we'll play it here. Okay. So right off the bat, our normal stuff, we're looking at real clouds. We see this smoke. I'm going to point out something to you in a few seconds here that nobody has ever pointed out about these videos ever, as far as I know. Look at the orb. Look at the second orb. What color are they? What color are the orbs? They look green to me. Let's wait for the third orb. Third orb is also green, but wait a minute. I saw some blue there for a second. Wait, what's going on? Now I see blue all the time. Hold on. There I see blue again. Now I'm seeing blue again. I'm seeing blue again all the time now. Now I'm seeing blue all the time. But wait, if I go back a few seconds, and this is the same distance. We haven't changed the distance of the perspective. When the orbs first came in, they're all green. Chat, I think we have a powerful indication here of one of the formation changes. Holy shit, chat. The color and the thermal signature of the orb changes after the orbs lock in triangle formation. Once they lock in triangle formation and start their dance, now you see the heat signature, the little like Tesla symbol, heat signature. Now it goes from being all yellow or all green, and it goes where the only green part is now the one little heat signature on it. Ooh, nobody ever noticed that before. And I thought about it. I went, wait, could this be that like maybe related to the distance or something? But first of all, not only does the distance not change, but even if somehow we were getting closer, when I'm getting closer, it shouldn't get colder. It should get hotter if I was getting closer. So this must be literally that we're actually seeing a change happen to the orbs. We actually see, and this now makes me wonder, holy shit, like, are they in like lock-in formation? Like when they're in lock formation, maybe the heat signature doesn't change, right? This is the first orb spinning around the plane, trying to lock in. And then the second orb shows up and it's already locked in. And now they're still both green. The third orb shows up. And now you do see very briefly, you see a heat signature of a blue. Why? That makes sense, right? Because imagine it might just be as simple as, what's our formation? Up, down, down. Or up, side, side. It might be as simple as how do we orient the orbs against one another? And even if they move in three-dimensional space, those heat signatures are going to stay perfectly aligned with one another. Why? Because they have to maintain the triangle formation no matter how they spin around. This means that if the videos are real, there should be a predictable heat signature of the orbs as they're spinning around the plane. Predictable. As in, no matter, even if I don't know what the specific orientation of the orbs is, up, down for this one, left or right, I know that they must be locked in. That means that if they're spinning around like this, I should always see, depending on if I move my perspective around, I should be able to see the same thing. This is going to become relevant because we're about to ask ChatGPT what ChatGPT thinks about a scenario much like this. So let's keep going a little bit on this. I'm also now wondering about the dark lines. One of the things I still don't know about, even right now, is are the dark lines something that's being projected outward from the orb? Or are the dark lines just like the orb is like pulling energy from the air, and that just happens to be its future path, and therefore that's where the energy is being absorbed from? The latter seems really weird when I think about it. Either way, I really don't know. There's a lot about these videos I don't know shit about, and I'm still learning more and more. But as you're seeing today, we can learn a lot from these videos, even more than I think we thought before. I kind of had an epiphany today, like, shit, we can actually like figure all this out. We watch these videos enough. I think we might be able to figure all this out. So now the orbs, we're seeing all kinds of blue now. So now we know for sure there seems to be some kind of change from what the orbs were, whatever their configuration was before. I'm seeing blue all over the place now. Before, I was just seeing green everywhere. And then when it zooms in, I wish we could see the phase transition. The problem here is that when the plane is out of view, when they zoom in, the orbs change from the circle formation, from the sphere formation to vertical. So we actually don't get to see when they change, because I was thinking when they change from spinning around the plane in a sphere to going perfectly vertical around the plane, there's gonna be a heat signature change. The heat signature will change because they're changing the up, down, left, right of the orbs. You change the formation of the orb. You say, okay, before they were all up. Okay, now this one's going to be down. And that's going to cause it to now vertically spin around the plane, right? That's what they're doing. It's that simple. It's literally flipping a switch on one of the orbs to change their formation. And I thought, oh shit, we got them. Because what we'll see is when we change the orientation, when the orbs change orientation from spherical around the plane to vertical, you're going to be able to watch the heat signature in the orbs change. Unfortunately, as we see right here, the plane goes off the screen, and when it comes back on, what is this? 1 clock, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds later, they're already vertical around the plane. They're already vertical. Now, I've stared at this part of the video for hours, and I can't tell how the orbs are moving in relation to one another. Most of the reason why is because you can only usually see one orb at a time. For a couple of frames, you can see 2 orbs, and you can actually glean a little information. Like I said before, I think that they must be, whatever their up, down, left, right orientation, spin orientation is, it must be fixed in relation to one another when they're in their various formations. And when they change their up, down, left, right spin orientation of any one of the orbs, it creates a new formation. It creates a new pattern. It creates a new effect. And if they actually just change them from whatever they are when they're spinning around. Like imagine all the magnets lined up. Like, boy, I'm not gonna be able to do this well. So like imagine the magnets are lined up end to end. So north, south, end up. And now you kind of bend them around the sphere of the plane. That's kind of how I imagine they're set up when they're spinning vertically around our Boeing 777. So our Boeing 777's flying, and the orbs are spinning around like this. They're all lined up where they're spinning in a wheel formation. And if you want to go from wheel formation to where they would collapse on the plane, all you have to do is change their angle slightly. Change the angle slightly, and they'll just collapse naturally on the plane. Okay. Now, we've stared at those videos. And one more thing, let's look at the last part of this video one more time. The super slow-mo. And then we're gonna see what Chat GPT or Grok says about this. So here's the super slow-mo. Now, you can see the orbs reorient. Remember when we said the orbs were slowing down in the other video? Well, look here. The orbs blur right there for a second. They're blurred right there. But then they pop out. And once they pop out, you can see the heat signature almost looks static on the top orb. It's like doesn't even move for several frames. And then they converge. So this would imply there's a connection. There's a connection between the orbs slowing down in the one video, in the satellite video, it's whammy footage, and the orbs converging in the thermal video. There might be a connection there. You guys ready for this? Okay, here we go. What all of you waited for. Actually, before we do that, quick intermission. There's this other video I want to show because it's also very, very connected to what we're talking about. Remember the dark lines in front of the orbs? Well, I'm not going to even answer that one. I'm going to let, what's his name? Boy, crazy. I don't have his name here. I'm going to let this guy, Chad Wanless. I'm going to let him explain it for y'all. Okay, here we go. I think this is right. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Could you work this in reverse and use the vapor formation and the gravitational lensing effects to predict the magnitude of the drive, the magnitude of space-time contraction or expansion?
Okay, so first of all, when he just said what he said right there, like, I immediately imagined, like, could you use magnetohydrodynamics to produce that cold, dark line in front of the orbs? And could you use it to control your speed? Could you use the bending of space to control your speed? And the answer is yes, of course you could. Of course you could. One of the coolest things that I've learned is that warp drive, bending space to move forward like a conveyor belt, is the same science as a wormhole. The only difference is you're turning up the warp drive. So a warp drive can be subluminal. Warp drive doesn't have to go faster than the speed of light. Warp drive is just the idea you're bending space-time around you. That's actually that's pretty cool. So let's go back to this guy.
I'm not sure about the actual magnitude. I think it's a yes or no
yes,
answer.
We can. I saw it before you there, Chad.
A vapor cone, or no, it's not. So here is a diagram on the left showing the spatial compression. The way I described it in the book was, imagine you've compressed 10 cubic feet of space down to 1 cubic foot of compared to normal space, relative to normal space. Let's use the right
Get to it, Chad.
And then as it's traveling along at, say, 100 kilometers an hour, the air that it's passing through was in a 1 foot cube, and now it suddenly finds itself in a pocket of space 10 cubic feet in size. It's going to rapidly expand, and if there's enough moisture in the air, it's going to condense and create a visible vapor cloud that would show up as cold on an IR camera.
Okay, well, bro, I'm sorry. Did you just say that it's gonna, if you were basically, I double checked all this to be sure. Basically, what he's saying is if you were to use negative energy to produce a warp drive, you would visually appear as a condensation cloud of fog that will appear cold in the thermal. Well, holy dang shit, chat. Because either this guy's watching our content and was like, hey, I can experimentally show that that's what's happening, or like that means that what we're looking at here is real. That's what you're seeing right there. I mean, that's literally it. That's those are cold condensation clouds that you're seeing there in the thermal in front of the orbs, which would imply that's negative energy pulling the orbs forward. Exactly like this guy just said. So let's go back to my man here.
On the right is your typical vapor cone of a jet that's traveling approximately the speed of Mach.
There's a visualization
These vapor
right there.
cones will form between 0.8 and 1.2 Mach. But notice how it's on the back half. It's not in front of it. It's basically almost behind it.
And so there I was showing, I added in here, you can see the vapor trails. This is in the original without the color change. You can see the dark vapor trails, cold vapor trails in front of the orbs. So solid indication that what we're looking at there is actually some form of negative entropy, negative energy propulsion. Also, I call it endothermic propulsion. You could also call it gravity propulsion. I mean, I would call what we're looking at there gravity propulsion, but up to you. Once again, going back to the beginning of this live stream, or actually, no, I think this was a different interview I was doing. The reason why I don't like the term anti-gravity is because if gravity is just a pressure force, then technically anything that's flying is anti-gravity. That's such a simple way to look at it. That's why we don't call it anti-gravity, because if you were to call it anti-gravity and you say that gravity is a pressure force, then bugs are anti-gravity. That's why I call beetles and flying bugs anti-gravity, because they're defying gravity. But that's kind of stupid, right? Because then everything is. So it's gravity manipulation. That's why Sal calls it gravity manipulation. That's why I call it gravity manipulation. Okay. Let's get to the sauce, everybody. Ashton Forbes' conversation, excuse me, with AI. So first thing I want to say before we dig into this, because I can already hear the seething and the gnashing of teeth. Ashton, don't you say that people shouldn't use AI because it's just a language learning model? Yes, I do say they shouldn't use AI to be told what's real or what's not. Don't go to AI and have it predict your future. Don't go to AI and say, hey, is this thing real there's not really a lot of information about? Because that's not how AI works. AI is not a sentient thinking machine. At least not yet. Probably will be. AI is a tool. So set up a scenario for the AI and have it test that scenario against, say, classical physics. That's something that it can be beneficial at. Use AI as a tool to augment your understanding. And so I had a thought. It said, what if I just tell AI to model a scenario like what we see in the MH370 videos, like what we saw with the minimum amount of inputs? Like, I don't want to write a book. I want to give it a minimum number of inputs, and I want to have it figure it out. That was my theory going into this. And then my thought was, okay, well, when it comes back and it says stuff that's not quite right, like assumptions that it makes about classic physics versus the zero-point energy view of physics, I'll just have it adjust those assumptions. That way we're being transparent so that anybody can look at this and they can say, okay, well, these are the assumptions that you made and why I disagree with those assumptions. Okay, and that's how I think the best way to use AI, because then you can have your own conversation, you can make your own assumptions, and you can come to your own conclusions. If you don't like my assumptions, then you can make your own. So I'm very curious in the chat as we go through this to hear what your thoughts are about the way I fed the AI the prompts. Because however you feed the prompt to the AI is going to have a big impact on the information that you get back. Okay, real quick. Mark Scott, brother, thank you very much. You're a hero, Mark Scott. Simone mocked up the Traveler of the Three Orbs, 3D and cap saluted ball. Yeah, it is. They are being sphere trapped, whatever you want to call it, when their orbs are spinning around the plane. Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Brady, when Hal got a case of the Mondays, do you think he tells himself it's better to be pooed off than peed on? Get out. Get out right now. Just kidding. That's an amazing joke, and that's an amazing $10 donation. Thank you very much. I assume Hal even appreciated it. Thank you, Brady. Michelangelo, what's up, Ashton? Do you think this has to do with portals? I don't like the word portal, but yes, I think it has to do with portals. Yes, I think it has to do with portals. No, I like wormhole, but none of them really do what we're talking about justice. I mean, we're talking about teleporting. Like functionally what's happening is teleportation. So I don't know, you can call it whatever the hell you guys want to call it. The thing about physics is that there's so many different terms for the same stuff in physics. That's what makes it so hard for people on the outside to come in and understand, like, is that the same as that? Like, you really, and I don't know if they do it by design. It almost feels like they do it by design to like gatekeep people out from the topic. And then lastly, C, thank you for that donation. Loving this investigation. Do you think the pilot or passengers can see the orbs? Great question. I'm moving towards them not being able to see the orbs and the orbs actually just being invisible. I'm actually moving towards the orbs straight up being invisible to the human eye. I can't reconcile how, like, Catherine T didn't see the orbs. There doesn't seem to be any reports of people freaking out about seeing orbs. And we're looking at both videos, at least the one is definitely like thermal infrared. And then the quote unquote satellite or whammy video might also be like a false color infrared. So we don't even really know if they're optically visible. So I'm leaning towards them not being visible. And it would also kind of explain why, like, we don't see them more often. Either they're not using them that often, or they're actually out there and we're just not seeing them. Again, guys, I don't know the true answer. Put your comments in the, in the replies in the chat or, down below. I'm curious what you guys think on that. Now, and I'll probably put a link to this conversation in the chat. So this is plasma orbs. What was that? What did the Grok call it? I don't know. Called it plasma orbs and something or other. So here we go. I'm going to share this all with you guys as well so that you guys can check it out and see for yourself. Oh, wow. Wait, these donations, how are they coming in so fast? Mark Scott, if China intercepted Malaysia communications and files, why do you think China is currently searching at the 7th arc? That is really weird, actually. So, Mark, thank you very much for that huge donation. I don't know. Maybe they don't know. Maybe only Chinese intelligence knows about what happened. And maybe a lot of the Chinese people don't know either. A lot like how in America, like only like the deep state, the covert administrative elite knows about what happened, but not everybody knows. And that's why there's a lot of people out there like, this can't be real. I know this can't be real. Those people aren't lying. They're just wrong because their lived experience is not all there is. That's really why. I'm not trying to be rude to those people, but like when Commander Fravor says this technology can't exist because I would know about it, it's just an absurd thing to say. It's completely wrong. Completely false. So maybe that's the case for China too. I don't care. As long as more people are searching down there, the better. Because they're not going to find anything and the excuses are going to start running dry. At some point, you got to say, why are we not finding anything anywhere? What's the guy's name? Lane or something like that says, oh, it's buried in this deep pit down here. It just happens to be in this magical pit. And the pilot was studying ocean topography and knew where to land the plane so they would fall down there in the water. Bro, good. Search down there. Don't find it so we can deal with, so we don't have to deal with that bullshit anymore. Robert Pugsley, thank you very much for that donation as well. Also, thank you for everybody who's donated in Pilled, on Pilled, and on Rumble. Thank you very much. I'm working through technical difficulties. I'm trying to figure out how I can represent those donations during the live streams. But I do want to let you know that you are appreciated if you are watching on one of those platforms. So thank you very much, especially if you donated. I know several people have. The owners of Pilled have reached out to me personally and let me know. Thank you, guys. Okay. I think we're ready. I think we are ready. Here's my prompt. Okay, I'm going to change this to this mode. So actually, this was my only prompt that you're looking at here, or my initial prompt. I didn't add any more. This is the very beginning of the prompt right here. Imagine 3 double-layer non-equilibrium plasma orbs spinning around a Boeing 777 in a perfect triangle. Could the orbs act as magnetic inverters to lock in and use magnetohydrodynamics to move? Would a sign of this be a hotter heat signature shaped like an orange slice? Truthfully, chat, I regret using the term orange slice. You'll probably see that for the rest of this. I probably should have used something more specific, but it is what it is. Okay. That was all I fed it. That was all I fed it as an initial intro. Nothing more. I didn't say anything about MHD 70 or any of that. And I said, you know, figure this out for me. Figure this out for me. No idea. So it says, okay, this is pretty interesting. So a double layer non-equilibrium plasma involve regions of separated positive and negative charge, creating strong electric fields. These could theoretically interact with magnetic fields, but using them as magnetic inverters to manipulate magnetohydrodynamics for propulsion is beyond current engineering capabilities. So the only or the main reason why Grok doesn't want to think it's real is because it thinks it's beyond current engineering capabilities. So right off the bat, I'm going, that's exactly the kind of answer I want to hear. Is yes, this is theoretically possible, but we just don't have it right now, right? Because that's the whole point. I'm saying we do have it right now. That's it's being kept secret from us. So right off the bat, pretty good start. What is my Rumble? You can probably just search Ashton Forbes. Wait, what is my? I thought it was just X Ashton. I thought I'm the same on all of them. What am I? Yeah, I'm at just Ashton. Oh, there's no X. No wonder. So Rumble is at just Ashton with no X. Well, I probably should synchronize those up, huh, chat? That's my Rumble. There you go. Thank you. And then wait. Was that the okay, yeah. And then Boozer, thank you very much. I appreciate the work. I appreciate you too, Boozer. Thank you. Okay, back to the task at hand here. So then it explains magnetohydrodynamics, which I've already kind of gone through. And again, it basically just says that it exceeds what we think should be possible. But then it says, you know, this involves using these Lorentz forces, which again, the Lorentz force was just like Veritasium, using the flywheel to spin it around, weightlessness. I mean, the flywheel for Veritasium weighs less. It's easier to move around. It's physically weighs less for him. Now, does the flywheel itself actually weigh less? No, the flywheel is still the same weight, but functionally it weighs less. So this is going to it's going to require this huge amount of energy to pull this off. If the plasma orbs were generating intense electromagnetic fields or accelerating plasma via magnetohydrodynamics, they'd produce significant thermal energy due to the particle collisions and resistive heating. However, the orange slice shape isn't a natural consequence of triangular plasma orb dynamics. So what I realized right here was the AI thought that I was trying to connect the heat signature of the orbs to the triangle shape of the orientation, which is not what I was trying to do. I was actually trying to point out, well, the orange slice itself should be like, you know, something related to plasma movement, magnetohydrodynamics. So that was something I wanted to correct. I realized right away through reading this. I'm only pointing this out because I want you guys to understand my thought process as I was reading it and going through it. Okay. And again, now it says stuff like we need to have perfect control over our magnetohydrodynamics, and we need to have this extremely powerful non-equilibrium plasma, which Sal has said that they exist. Pilled, it's Pilled, P-I-L-L-E-D. Pilled is pilled.net. You can find a lot of people who are truth seekers on pilled.net, including Zach Payne, the corruption detector. I've been on his show. I thought it was red pilled, but it's actually just pilled.net. Pilled.net is the one where you can find it. Okay, back to the task at hand. So basically, it didn't like the idea. So then I went ahead and I helped it out. Why? Because as I just pointed out to you guys, we're not talking about thermal plasmas. We're not talking about heat plasmas here. We're talking about a non-equilibrium plasma that's a low temperature with charge separation going on in it. And when I'm talking about the heat signature of the plasma orb, it's not necessarily related to because of the triangle formation, although it's going to be interesting here when we keep going on this. So I say non-equilibrium plasmas are cold plasmas. The plasma orbs in this scenario are very low temperature, less than hundreds of degrees. And now this part, maybe I was wrong about, maybe not. The orange slice is the heat signature of the electrons in the plasma, which are hotter than the ions. Now that we've determined each ball of plasma acts like a magnetic inverter with a positive and negative separated chargers, and that the orange slice is the electrons, what type of spin orientations would the orbs make in order to make a sphere around the plane and then shift into a vertical spin around the plane? Assume they're using magnetohydrodynamics to spin the plasma. And also, this is another assumption, assume the orbs are weightless. I think this, assuming the orbs are weightless, is probably my number one, like, sketchier, bolder assumption. The rest of them, I think, are pretty straightforward assumptions. And here I'm saying, not only am I saying, okay, here I'm going to correct your interpretation of what I'm trying to say, and then I'm also going to take it a step further and say, okay, you basically confirmed to me that this could act like a magnetic inverter because of the charge separation. So assuming that this is the case, and we have these formations that can be up, down, left, right, tell me, how is this going to play out? Let's see what the AI says in response. So then it says, here's the redefined scenario, okay? And then it lists the new assumptions that I've got here. I'm going to skip through those. And then it explains, okay, we're going to shift from a spherical formation into a vertical formation around the plane. So to form a spherical envelope, the three orbs must orbit the plane in a coordinated way, covering roughly spherical volume. So they're in a perfect triangle, assuming an equilateral triangular plane. The orbs move in a triangular formation with the center of mass as the plane's centroid. That's true, right? What I want you to think about while you're listening to this, imagine the videos and that we reviewed. This is why we reviewed the videos at the beginning. And now realize this AI has never seen the videos. In fact, I never mentioned the videos at all. The only thing I've ever mentioned in this prompt is to imagine 3 double-layer balls of plasma, non-equilibrium balls of plasma, spinning around a plane in a triangle formation. That's it. Okay. To create a spherical envelope, the triangular plane must tumble or precess, so the orb's paths trace out a spherical shell over time. This could be achieved by a combination of orbital angular momentum around the plane and spin angular momentum, each orb rotating on its axis. Well, it turns out the orbs are rotating on their axis. We can tell that just from looking at the drone video. I never mentioned anything about the orbs rotating on their axis in this prompt. A simple model is a great circle orbit where a triangular plane rotates around the fixed axis, but to cover a sphere, it must rotate. Okay, so anyway, sends out all about. For a stability in the spherical orbit, each orb's spin axis should be aligned perpendicular to its orbital plane initially, maximizing gyroscopic stability. In a triangle formation, the axis could be a couple of different ways. Either all three spin axes, so the orbs themselves are spinning, right? Either all 3 spin axes lie in the triangular plane, pointing tangentially, e.g., each orb spins along the direction of its velocity relative to the triangle center. This creates a magnetic field perpendicular to the triangle, adding to collective stability. So they're saying here that basically the spin of the orbs is going to determine the formation. The spin of the orbs is going to, even if you don't understand exactly what it's saying with respect to those, it's saying that the spin of the orbs is going to determine the orientation of the triangle. And if all three spin axes are parallel, so they're all lined up, perpendicular to the triangular plane. So again, perpendicular to the triangle plane. So if our triangle is a flat triangle like this, then the spins would be perpendicular to the plane, which would be the opposite. So here's our triangle, perpendicular. This guarantees a magnetic field aligned with the triangle's axis, which could couple to the plane's motion to drive the precession. So actually, the orbs are probably locking the plane in the middle of them as well. That this magnetic field is not just keeping the orbs connected, but is keeping the plane stuck between them, which seems like, yes, of course, that should be the case. But then you're like, oh, that's what they're doing. They're getting the plane stuck between their magnetic fields so that when they intensify the magnetic fields, poof, that plane shows up somewhere else. Now, the mechanism. The orb's internal currents from the electron-ion separation, they interact with their self-generated magnetic fields to produce torque, sustaining spin. To orbit the plane, the orb's magnetic dipoles, their dipole is their north and south, they interact with an external field generated by the mutual orbs. And this produces the Lorentz force that curves their paths into orbits. That part right there says straight up, the orbits of the plane of the orbs around the plane is due to the magnetic fields being produced by the orbs themselves. So to trace it, they're going to go entirely on the field. Let's see, what else we got here? The orange slice suggests a region of high electron density or energy, likely aligned with the magnetic field lines where the electrons spiral. I didn't say anything about any of that to the AI. In this configuration, the orange slice might appear as a curved band on each orb, oriented along the spin axis or orbital path, contributing to the spherical glow as the orb moves. Wow. That right there is saying that the heat signature of the orbs is not just the electrons, that's the vortex motion. I never even brought that up. But because you guys have been following me, you know that I've been saying that the electrons are spinning in a vortex. Why? To stabilize the plasma. There are two ways to stabilize plasma into a sphere like this. One is by squishing it, and the other is vortex motion. And it was force-free time harmonic plasmoids by Jack Nechamkin, 1991. Check out the scientific paper. That's the one that says you can use vortex to stabilize plasma, potentially to create a self-coherent ball of plasma. Wow, we're cooking. Whew. Okay. Oh, this is the part where I think it gets good. So the transition to the vertical spin. So when they change from a spherical orientation, they change from the spherical orientation, the vectoring orientation to find the fourth orb, to the vertical formation. So it says that this is going to have a poloidal orbit, and they maintain their equilateral triangle, but now they're rotating around the plane center line, okay? The transition requires reorienting the triangle plane from its tumbling orientation. Yep, okay, great. Let's see. So to stabilize the vertical orbit, each orb's spin axis should align with the new orbital plane's movement. So what it's saying is that when these orbs are spinning around the plane, all it has to do is adjust the spin of inside this, and it will change from going all the way around 360 to just going vertical. So literally all they have to do is just flip the spin to a preset level, and it's just going to change in terms of how it's spinning around the plane. More like, oh, this is the part that I thought was really great here as well. So it lists two options here. It says, if the orb's spin axis remain in the triangular plane, tangential to their orbital paths, the magnetic fields are radial or poloidal. Poloidal is like the Earth, requiring external axial field to produce the necessary. So they're saying you would potentially need an external field to rotate. They are actually rotating and spinning. The orbs are rotating and spinning. Anyway, but it says more likely each orb's spin axis aligns parallel to the plane's roll axis so that all three orbs spin like wheels around the fuselage. This generates toroidal magnetic fields, which, when coupled with the currents, produce tangential forces to sustain the orbit. So what I thought was weird about this is this reminded me of the video that we watched, the thermal video. It reminded me of the zoomed in part at the end when it's talking about these, the vertical spinning that creates these toroidal magnetic fields, which then produce forces tangential to sustain the orbit. Doesn't it look like, I can't tell the exact alignment right here, but if I were to slow it down, maybe I can slow it down in another window. It does look like, however these orbs are aligned, it is potentially perpendicular or parallel, or, you know, it's kind of hard to think about in three-dimensional space, but it looks like they're at a fixed orientation as they're spinning around the plane, and it looks like they're spinning around the plane like a bike wheel, which I think is very similar to what this described right here in this axial spin. So then it also says that the orb's charge separation should realign so that the dipole moment points across the plane's x-axis. Now that I do understand. That I do understand. That's saying that if, let's say that the top here is positive and this is negative, and this plane is flying this way, then the orb should go this way. So that positives over here, negatives over here. And that means that our heat signature should also be parallel to the path of the plane. Now, that's hard to think about in three-dimensional space, but I did notice in that thermal video, there are several points where the orbs are spinning around the plane. Actually, let me do a different version of this, where it does look like they might actually just be, you know, aligned at that exact angle. Now, keep in mind, when I'm about to show you this here, we're looking at the plane from an angle, and the orbs are spinning around it vertically. So it's really hard to understand our perspective of what's going on. Let me go show this here. Here we go. So let's watch the zoomed in part again. Okay. Are the orbs, what we want to ask ourselves here, are the orbs aligned parallel to the movement of the plane? Is the heat signature aimed to the left or to the right? Well, there you go, chat. There it is right there. That heat signature is aligned along the x-axis of the plane moving forward. Right there. I'll try to pause it on another one. There it is right there. That heat signature is also aligned right there along the x-axis of the plane. The x-axis of the plane, if I were to cut the plane in half, right where my line is, First orb is aligned with the x-axis of the plane. Second orb is aligned with x-axis of the plane. That one you can't really tell. This one might not. Oh, that one definitely is. Wait. I think I skipped past it. I don't think on all of them I could tell. That one definitely was. The second one was. This one might not be, but it's hard to tell. I can't pause it right now. That one I think was aimed to the right. And that one was aimed to the right as well. But notice every single orb, regardless of if they're left or right, when they go around the center of the plane, when they go near the nose, it looks like they're pointed to the left or to the right. Right? Even this one, right? That one was pointed to the right. Every single time they go by the nose of the plane, they're pointed either to the left or to the right. Now, what did this just say? I'll do some super chats here in a minute as well. It says right there, it says, where was it? The orb's charge separation realigns so that the dipole moment points along the plane's x-axis. There it is. That's what that means right here. Also, I want to point out what this actually, when I read this again, I thought, what does it mean when it says the dipole moment is going to realign? What it's saying is the magnetic field produced by the ring around the plane, is actually changing the heat signature of the orb. I thought this whole time that the reason why we see the certain heat signature of the orb is something that's being projected from inside of it. But it actually might be that the orb is just ions, positive charge on the inside, and then on the outside, it's negative charge. And if you move that next to a magnetic field, the electrons are going to pull towards one side. They're going to pull towards one side. So if that's the case, then the heat signature of the orbs might actually be a byproduct of the triangle formation that they're producing and the movement around the plane itself. And why is that amazing? Because remember when we watched the beginning of the video, we noticed at the beginning of the video, the orbs were green. They weren't blue at the beginning of the video. Where is it? The orbs are green. So this supports the idea that the thing that's actually changing the green on the orbs is the magnetic field they're producing. Right now, why is that orb green? Why is it all green? Why is that orb all green? Why are all three all green? Why are they changing and not being all green anymore? Because the magnetic field they're producing around the plane right now is moving the electrons around in the plasma. It's interacting with the plasma balls. So as the plasma balls are spinning around the plane, they're creating a magnetic field. And those heat signatures you see right there are because of the magnetic field being produced around the plane. Wow. That shit wild, chat. It wild. Okay. I think we're going to, let's see, synchronize the orb's spins so that their axes converge on the plane's x-axis using mutual magnetic repulsion to maintain the equilateral triangle. Wow. The orange slice electron signature would shift from a precessing pattern, spherical phase, to a toroidal band as the electrons follow the new magnetic field lines from circling the plane. Boom! It says it right there. the electron heat signature is going to change from a spherical phase to a toroidal band as the electrons follow the new magnetic field lines from circling the plane. Damn, chat. We might have just figured something out nobody ever has figured out in the videos. There are multiple states, formations, phases of the orbs. The heat signature proves what we're looking at there is separated charge plasma. It's separated charge plasma, and you can see the charge separation get affected by the magnetic field around the airplane. Holy shit. F yeah, chat. F yeah. I could never have imagined in a million years we're going to be able to show that what we're seeing in the videos is 100% physically correct. From the we can prove that that's plasma. If it wasn't plasma, the electron field wouldn't adjust like that. It has to be amorphous plasma. If it was a solid object, the heat signature can't shift around like that. The heat signature gives it all away. The United States government is so fucked, chat. These videos are easily the biggest leak of weapons intelligence ever. Ever. Shit just cracks me up that these leaked. They keep underestimating us. When are they going to stop underestimating this movement? We are going to figure out all of your goddamn secrets. Everything you did to make these plasma orbs work, we're going to figure it out. And if you don't think we're going to figure out what's inside these plasma orbs, we're going to figure that out too. We don't even need to be able to see inside of them. I didn't think we'd be able to figure all this shit out. Now I'm just going, the moment I can feed the videos to AI, this shit's over. AI is going to take those videos and it's going to figure out exactly how those orbs are working. The moment that I can't figure out the alignment of the heat signatures with my human eye because it's moving too fast. And it's hard to figure all that shit out. The AI is going to figure that out immediately. It's going to be able to like model it for us. Pretty soon the AI is going to be like, and this is what happened in the thermal video when the plane was off the screen and the orbs changed formation. It's going to be able to explain exactly what it did and show us a video. We're approaching that point. I think there's a couple more Yahtzee moments. I'm already losing track here. But that part there was crazy because then I'm thinking, I had never thought that, oh, wow, the heat signature of the orb is being impacted by the joint magnetic field that the orbs in the triangle formation are producing. The triangle formation of the orbs is producing its unique magnetic field. Okay. And now it explains some of the spin states. We're going to skip through some of this because I think I have some more. Oh, yeah, there's a lot more on here. Okay. Feasibility, conclusion. Okay. This is maybe we'll just go to the conclusions from now on. For a spherical envelope, the orbs would likely spin with axes normal to the triangular plane, precessing to cover a spherical volume, with orange slice electron signatures as glowing wedges. To transition to a vertical spin, the orbs reorient their spin axes parallel to the plane's longitudinal axis, forming a toroidal magnetic field for stable poloidal orbits, with the orange slice becoming a ring-like band. This assumes idealized magnetohydrodynamic and magnetic control, but atmospheric and energy constraints make it highly speculative. God damn, chat. Oh, I didn't have it up on the screen. Well, there you go. So that is like basically saying, yes, you should pull this off. And it just straight up says right there, in order to make them go vertical around the plane, you just need a line there. You'll be able to tell if you see the electron moment be parallel to the axis of the plane, which I just showed you. They are. The heat signature no matter which way it is, even if it's like this way or that way, you know, whichever way it is, either direction, we see that heat signature parallel to the axis of the plane. Now, I tried to get to do some visualizations. Let's just say the visualization stuff on Grok needs a little bit of help. I wanted to visualize me the fields, like the magnetic fields is what I was hoping for. And this is what I got. I don't know what that's supposed to be. So then what I asked it instead was, how would the orbs, and there's only like one more question after this, I think. How would the orbs change from a stable vertical orientation to one where they collapse on the plane? And why would they do this? Okay, let's skip through some of this. You know what? I'm just going to go straight to the last. I can't remember which was the part that I wanted to do. Crap. Okay, let's just read it. Okay. Oh, yeah, this is the part right here. So you need to disrupt the stability of the orb. So remember, guys, what did I tell you before? Is that right before the plane gets zapped away, the orbs slow down. They're spinning around the plane, slows down a little bit. We can see it in the satellite video. Well, what does this say right here? Reduction in orbital velocity. If the magnetohydrodynamic driven tangential force decreases, the orb's orbital speed slows, and the centrifugal force can no longer counteract the inward forces, causing them to spiral inward. Why are the orbs converging? Because they're slowing down. Once those orbs started slowing down, they converge. In fact, based on this, I'm changing my analysis of the moment right before the plane zapped. The orbs are slowing down at the same time where they are blurring. Actually, this may be the same thing I just said. The orbs slow down in the satellite video the same time they are blurring right before they converge. In fact, they are slowing down and converging at the same time in both videos. So we can pretty much line them up the exact moments in both videos now. And that shows that one of the ways is simple. Just slow the orbs down and they're going to collapse on one another. In fact, you could control how quickly they collapse as well. So what's another way? Magnetic field reconfiguration. If the external magnetic field weakens or changes orientation, the Lorentz forces will diminish. Therefore, the toroidal field will collapse or reverse. And then the orbs will experience this inward force. So part of it, all you have to do, just change the orientation of one of the orbs. Change the spin of it, and then they'll just collapse naturally because the magnetic fields will draw them together. So instead of the orbs being in a magnetic lock orientation, there's another orientation where if you just change the formation of the orbs, boom, they'll just come together. So now you're realizing everything is magnetohydrodynamics. What's the steering wheel of these orbs? Magnetohydrodynamics. Controlling the magnetic field in the plasma. You just have a ring or something inside there that just spins around and you control it, and it will control everything about the movement of the orbs, the convergence of the orbs, everything. The locking in, all of the above. Absolutely wild. I still can't get over how the AI figured out that the electrons must be in a vortex motion when I never brought that up. Never brought that up. And the electrons are like, yep, that orange slice of the electrons also must be in a vortex motion. And we just happen to know that's one of the only two ways that we know of to stabilize a wall of plasma. Whoo! Yeah, if Hal and Eric are out there, guys, I love you, bros. You're kind of my heroes. But also, it's kind of messed up that you've just been hiding this from the world. So, I don't know. Let's just say I have mixed reviews, mixed feelings on the whole situation. Okay. And then loss of repulsion. Okay. So, they're going to spiral. The axes are going to change. Okay, let's just go to the conclusion of this one. Or let's go to why the orbs would collapse. I mean, you could kind of tell what I was trying to get to, the orbs collapsing. Like, is this going to figure out that we could do a wormhole? Unfortunately, I read through it and no, it didn't really get the point. And I think the reason why I didn't understand the wormhole thing was because it doesn't understand how much energy we're at. Like, I told it, here's a plasma ball, but I didn't tell it, oh, this plasma ball is like infinite energy. It's like this huge energy density. I didn't explain that to the AI. So the AI is just assuming it's just this tiny, tiny little plasma ball, right? The AI doesn't have any context here in this case. So basically I did a follow-up on here and it mentioned the collapse. Actually, there was a part in the collapse. The orb's orbit begins to shrink and their triangle formation distorts. I could have sworn somewhere in here as well, it mentions that they're going to flatten. Yeah, here it is right here. Look at this. Oh, no. Yeah, no, that's not what I wanted. No, that's not the thing. Okay. I could have sworn there was something else in there about like speaking to gravitational lensing, but maybe not. Maybe not. Okay. So then I said, okay, so it says it's going to become chaotic. The orbs are going to collapse. Didn't really give me an answer. It said, now assume the orbs carry a huge amount of charge density. From a physics perspective, what would occur as they come together? Now it actually got a little bit interesting. They say, okay, here's this super high charge density. Now let's skip down. It's saying stuff like you're going to see mutual attraction and repulsion, which we're seeing, field enhancement. As the distance between the orbs decrease, the electric field in the gaps skyrockets. So very quickly, the force is going to break the dielectric breakdown of air. What this means is that you're going to see lightning strike. Now, what this means with respect to the orbs is when the electric force, as they're converging together, when that electric force overcomes the resistance in the air, because air is a natural insulator, when it overcomes that, zap, those orbs come together and they achieve this incredible energy density. So what this is saying right here is, Ashton, you are correct. The orbs are coming together because they're amplifying their individual energies. When they come together, they amplify the electric field around the plane. We already know the reason why they're doing that. Salvatore Pais told us. They're achieving an energy density so high that they're breaking through the ceiling or the fabric of our reality. And that's why we see our plane disappear. That's what those orbs are doing right there. So we can expect to see lightning-like discharges, magnetic reconnection. So the orb's spinning motion generates toroidal magnetic fields. And as they approach, these fields overlap and interact. If the fields are oppositely directed, magnetic reconnection occurs, converting magnetic energy into kinetic and thermal energy. I gotta say, I love that line. And just to me, it sounds so beautiful compared to what we're seeing. The orbs are coming together. Their magnetic fields are connecting. They create one super powerful orb that just completely zaps the plane away from that location, converting all that magnetic energy into kinetic energy that just rips right through space-time. That's how I look at it. Now, is that really what's happening? But certainly feels that way. Now, we know that the plane itself is not actually accelerating the speed of light. It's cheating, so to speak. So maybe it's a matter of that kinetic energy being converted to some type of effect that is making that bubble that we've been talking about around the plane, right? Changing that local space-time curvature. Whew. Okay, plasma dynamics and merging. Okay, so then here it talks about, all the specifics about when this is all going to happen, and the stuff's going to intensify. I think it also speaks to a release of photons as well somewhere in here. could have sworn there's something about that. Oh yeah, okay. Electrostatic effects, massive discharge and arcing possible, strong EMP. The energy release and discharge creates a shock wave in the atmosphere. The overpressure scales. Now, this is the part here. This shock wave and pressure wave. I'm going to push back right here. I need to understand the difference between vibrational energy and thermal energy. And this is what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. I've already got a couple float head videos lined up. Because I want to understand why there's not a shock wave in the MH370 video. I have a feeling the answer here is we're not looking at a traditional explosion. And because of what we're looking at here, the reason is like it's some kind of non-radiating energy transfer. A non-radiating energy transfer that doesn't have a shock wave. Meaning that the energy is transferring from one location to the other, but it's not causing this pressure effect. And that's why when the plane disappears, the clouds don't get blasted away. Because you don't see that conventional shock wave. But this idea that it's some type of non-radiating energy transfer is really controversial. Really controversial. And it leads to ideas like Randall Mills and questions our understanding of quantum mechanics entirely. That's what we're going to talk about on Wednesday. It's going to be, if you guys like quantum mechanics, the photoelectric effect, Einstein, Wednesday's live stream is going to be nerd heaven. Today's live stream is, here's some crazy plasma orbs. Turns out the United States government has them. They have perfect control over magnetohydrodynamics. And oh, by the way, because they have perfect control over magnetohydrodynamics, this also means they have already figured out fusion like a long time ago. If you can make these plasma orbs, any of the stuff that we've been talking about here, any of this, you already figured out fusion. You already cracked it. Like what we're looking at with these plasma orbs is more complicated than figuring out fusion. Pretty wild, right? Okay, and then the final stage here is the orb dissipation. So, you know, the plane may suffer structural damage, surface damage as well. So scorch marks, remember, a couple of pieces of debris. There are a couple pieces of debris found in Africa that have scorch marks on them, burn marks on them, probably from the fire. But I just think good to point that out. So this actually doesn't say anything about wormholes. And as you see, this is the final bit of the conversation. I just had like a couple basic questions for AI. It's not like I had this huge, long conversation. I think less is more when it comes to AI. But you know what? One more question for tonight. Would this convergence of the plasma orbs be consistent with an Einstein-Rosen bridge? Explore this idea. Let's see what AI has to say, chat. And while we're waiting for the AI, this takes a minute or two. I'll answer a question or two about MH370, wherever you want. Yeah, the debris can't have made it to Africa, which means the debris must have gotten the water somewhere else, right? My whole point is the debris is from MH370. It's just plane didn't go to the South Indian Ocean. We know that because we're watching the plane get teleported away. So wherever that plane shows up, debris fell off and then washed to Africa. So based on that, I can say, well, where are the locations where the debris washing ashore, where that makes sense? Turns out the one that makes the most sense for where that debris would have washed from is Diego Garcia Military Base. No joke. Diego Garcia Military Base. Look at the debris. Compare it to the location of Diego Garcia. In fact, you know what, chat? Since we have an extra minute, Here's a freebie for you guys. I already have the image ready to go. I actually took one of those drift analysis things that they did, and I put Diego Garcia on the plot of it just so people could see like where it is relative to this whole situation with the plane. So here you go. Here it is. I mean, there you go, chat. Look at the search area. Look at the ocean currents. If the search area was correct, all the debris would have washed ashore in Western Australia. Look at where Diego Garcia is right there. Look at where all the debris was found. I'd say Diego Garcia is a perfect match for, and I'm not an oceanographer or ocean current analysis person, but, you know, just looking at the ocean currents on this little map here, looks like a perfect match to me. Anyway, okay, back to the last thing. Let's see what AI has to say, guys. Oh, let's do a couple of more donos. You guys are going wild, these donos. Okay, we took care of those. What do you think was fun idling the orbs? I don't know. Oh, what do you think was guiding the orbs? That's a good question. I thought maybe the video was what was guiding the orbs. Some people said they're painting the plane when they're filming it. I have a feeling they have some way to like paint the plane so that it becomes a target for the orbs. Maybe the batteries are the target. I don't know. More and more, I'm wondering about the batteries. We'll talk about that at another live stream, but maybe the batteries are a catalyst. It turns out that when I dug into Randall Mills and his hydrino theory, which tells us we can get these huge amounts of energy, lithium is one of the catalysts. And get this, this is true what I'm about to say. You guys are not going to believe this. Jack Sarfati sent me an email. I thought I was finally off his chain email list, but he sent me a personal email. And it was like not shitting on Hal Puthoff, but saying Hal Puthoff can't do it, but we might be able to do it with plasmas and if we have lithium or some other catalyst as well. And I'm going, whoa. Jack sent me something that was like not condescending and actually made me think and might be a good lead. How can that be the same Jack Sarfati? I don't know what's going on. Anyway, just kidding if you're out there, Jack. Amir, thank you very much for that huge donation. Your connection between Sean Naylor, Jenny Lynn Naylor, and Danny Jones was fantastic. I can't even believe this shit. I can't believe half the shit that keeps happening. When I saw Sean Naylor on Danny Jones, I couldn't even process what was happening. From the perspective of like, I was on Danny Jones. I got treated like shit. Everybody says it's so weird. Doesn't make any sense. And then to find out about Edward Lynn and find out about his sister, and then to find out who she is and who she's married to. But then after all that, someone's like, hey, did you know that guy you said is like Edward Lynn's brother-in-law was on Danny Jones? I'm like, wait, what? Danny Jones is in the guy, like concrete Danny Jones? No way. And they share it. And out of all the topics it could be about literally anything. Ghosts? Nope. Turns out it's about CIA and how the CIA does these black operations behind the scenes and how they legally justify them. Bro, if this guy doesn't know what Edward Lynn did, I would be amazed. He must know. He's his brother-in-law. His sister knows what happened. It's just a family full of spooks. It's an entire family filled with spooks. And I say this in the most loving way because Edward Lynn is still my hero, but I'm getting the increasing feeling like the only way to beat this battle, game, whatever is going on, is to take down our hero, Edward Lynn. God, Edward Lynn, man, don't make me do it, brother. Just give me anything, man. Give me anything. You don't have to say you leaked the videos, but just give me anything to get me off your case. Like this idea that you're just going to ignore me for the rest of your life, that shit is not going to happen, brother. That ain't going to happen. Anyway, okay, let's move on to some other stuff here. Truth Seekers say MH370 was deleted because 3 people on board had some patent. That unfortunately is not true. The Rothschild thing. So this was Dick Gregory, I think his name was. Comedian, legendary guy, smart guy. He was the one that kind of pushed that to the forefront. It turned out those people were not on board the plane, and also patents don't work that way anyway. But actually, like the people that do own or did own Freescale were really sketchy. It was like BlackRock Group. So yes, it actually was some sketchy people that owned the company. And the company was $7 billion in debt, which disappeared the next year when the company got bought out. And yes, that company was connected to U.S. aerospace and defense. So it feels like that whole patent thing that you'll see out there about the 4 people and the 5 people in the patent or whatever. It feels like that was just intentional disinformation that was pushed out there because those people are actually the motive. Like that company and those people on the plane were actually the motive. It just wasn't those 4 or 5 people. Those people just weren't on the plane, just different people. And you're like, wait, how's there a story about the people who are the motive, but it's like a different story? You're like, that doesn't make any sense. So to me, that feels like somebody was like, we can't have people looking into these Freescale people. Let's push a different narrative out there about them that we can easily disprove. And that way, when people bring up the Freescale thing, they'll be able to say, oh, you're talking about that patent thing. Oh, I can prove that's fake instantly, which anybody can do. Those people weren't even on the plane. The people in that patent weren't even on the plane. That was the first thing we checked. We know every single person on that plane, by the way. So yeah, one more thing I just want to say is like, we found everything about MH370. I would be amazed if somebody was able to find a detail out there that we didn't already find. We got dug through. People were finding shit in the Internet Archives. I don't even know how they were finding it. Truthfully, I have no idea how they were finding it. Like websites don't even exist anymore. I have no idea. So there's almost no chance you're going to find something out there that we didn't already dig into. I'm just not saying that as to brag or anything. Just saying like, if you find something, we've probably seen it. If it's really cool and interesting, you should still bring it to our attention. Because as you're seeing, a lot of this is like, we need to keep pushing this information out there so people are seeing it. Like the Sean Naylor thing. I already reported on that months ago, but people didn't see it back then. And now people are seeing it and they're going, it's getting like 5 times the amount of views because people are going, wait, this is really, really weird. Like really weird. Especially when at any point, if I was wrong, we're talking a 5-minute phone call from any of these people. We should just clear this all up. But instead, everybody's acting like I'm made of kryptonite or something. They can't come near me. Which, honestly, it's smart of them. Because as I was telling people earlier, I will get the truth. Even if they can't admit it, I will still get the truth. You guys saw the questions that I asked Salvatore Pais. There is no hiding. I'm going to get the truth. Anyway, sorry, guys. Let's keep going. David, how did China get the picture of the Orbs to post? They have their own satellites. I think that we're looking at a satellite that's much further away than the sensor data that's being used by the United States government. So they leaked their best imagery, which is probably garbage compared to ours, or at least it was in 2014. And so that's where the Chinese satellite imagery came up from. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, just Google MH370 China satellite image. And it looks just like the Orbs spinning around the plane, but much further away in much lower resolution. So part of me feels a little bit bad that I'm exposing all this stuff, but truthfully, I don't think there's ever going to be accountability for anybody that was involved in this operation. And so the only punishment they may get is that these videos are out there on the internet and that everybody, including our adversaries, can reverse engineer them. And you know what? If that's the punishment, then it's better than nothing, I suppose. Okay, guys, last thing. Let's take a look at what Grok says. Let's see. Yeah, I'll put a link right after this stream. I'll put a link in the description to the AI chat, guys, so you guys can interact with yourself, do whatever you want. Maybe you guys will find out more stuff. I mean, like I said, I only did a couple questions, so it wasn't like it was too complicated. Okay, I'm just gonna skip through the bases. Schwartz tried traversable wormholes. Yeah, so here you go. For the people who are like, hey, are wormholes even real? A lot of people ask me this. Yes, wormholes are apparently traversable. But fun fact, the papers about traversable wormholes, ones that people can go through, all post-date the videos by like more than 5 years. So when the videos were published in 2014, there was no science publicly available about traversable wormholes. It was just mostly in people's heads. at that point. I mean, I'm sure you can find some random paper somewhere, but the main people that are promoting it now were not back then. They were still working on the theories. Whew. Okay. Okay, blah, 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 high energy. The energy density of the orbs, even with its high energy density, is insufficient to produce the extreme space-time curvature required for an Einstein-Rosen bridge. Wormholes typically require energy densities on the order of this massive energy density. My guess, though, here, as we're going to find, and again, I haven't reread this yet, is the next paragraph is going to basically say that since negative energy doesn't exist, we can't do any of this. When the reality is, negative energy is the answer to all of these problems. Anyway, let's just take a look. So it says we need negative energy to keep the throat open, blah, blah, blah. And we don't have any negative energy here, is what it's saying. Of course, we don't have any negative energy, so therefore we can't possibly produce this. Okay, so I expected something like this. It does say there should be a gravitational effect, including a space-time distortion such as gravitational lensing. But we do see gravitational lensing. There is gravitational lensing in the video. And now this is another thing where you can imagine if the AI had access to the video, it could figure this out. But because the AI just has what I fed it, and I never said anything about gravitational lensing or seeing gravitational lensing in the video, it doesn't know that you would see it here. So this is the part where, again, I say, like, if I was going to keep this going, I would say, oh, imagine that we do see gravitational lensing effect in the frame right before the zap happens or something like that. Wormholes might emit exotic radiation. So this is interesting because we do potentially see exotic radiation in the videos. In the satellite video, and I use quotes because I don't think it's actually a satellite, but it could be. The zap illuminates and reflects off the cloud. So potentially we are seeing some exotic release of electromagnetic energy in the form of light that is unconventional. It could be possible. I mean, it could also just be conventional, have a conventional understanding, but it could also be unconventional. And then it does say here that the orb's high charge density and spinning motion suggest a possible analogy to a Kerr-Newman black hole, which describes a rotating charged black hole. The Kerr-Newman metric includes a term for charge, potentially creating a naked singularity with no event horizon if charge and rotation dominate over mass. Let's go, chat. Wow. What? What? I did not expect that. How do you teleport the plane? It says it right there. How do you teleport the plane? Oh, well, it turns out if you have your spin and your energy flux, the amount of local energy in a region gets so large that it overcomes the mass of the object, you might be able to create a singularity, a naked singularity. And that's important because a wormhole is a naked singularity. A wormhole is literally a black hole with no event horizon. If you're not familiar with what an event horizon is, the event horizon on the black hole is the point where no light can escape. If you go past that point, you can't go back. In a wormhole, you can go past that point and you can come back. That's what a wormhole is. That's, in fact, possibly the only difference between a black hole and a wormhole. Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, so I didn't expect that. Let's see. So they're claiming, again, that the mass energy and the angular momentum is too small. So I think this should be good. Let's just see, blah, blah, blah. Conclusion, I think it's just basically that there's not enough energy and that we don't see gravitational lensing, but we do. And currently believes that it's not powerful enough. So this is actually what I would expect, right? The AI is using a conventional understanding of physics, and I could take that further to, probably get a pretty positive response back if I was so inclined. But the main thing is that it doesn't understand negative energy. Negative energy is quite like cheating. Because if the AI is saying you need this huge amount of energy, is way too much, what negative energy does to that math is it says, zoop, now you just need this much energy. Because negative energy is just subtracting from the total amount of energy you need. So if I say I need 100 units of energy to produce a wormhole, or 1,000,000, any number, doesn't matter the number. If negative energy is possible, I can bring that down to 0, theoretically, or to a very, very, very small number. The energy problem isn't a problem at all. If you understand that negative energy is not an exotic, mythical substance, then I don't give a shit how much energy you think it takes. It's not a problem. In fact, I would also say that for those orbs not to be white hot, like white hot, since those orbs are not white hot, they too must be utilizing some form of negative energy. Because each individual orb should be carrying so much energy that it should just be white hot when we look at it in the thermal. But it's not. It's the same temperature as the background. It's blue, green. Negative energy is the answer. Definitely. It's the answer to all this, guys. Guys, thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I am just blown away by how much you can learn from 2 videos, even a year and a half later. I think we have a really, really good theoretical basis for how the orbs are locking in, and that they have, we'll call them formations of orientation and spin that can determine how they're going to act in a combined coherent structure. So they can lock into a triangle formation around any object, a boat, plane, anything they want. And they can move around that object in any way that they want, basically orbiting it like it's a planet, just using magnetism. Chat, it's cool as shit. This is cool as shit. We're getting to a point where we've really demystified these orbs. We've gotten to the point where these orbs were alien balls from another dimension, to now, like, these are plasma orbs. They're non-equilibrium. They're charge separated. They're using magnetohydrodynamics to move them around. They are essentially weightless, orbiting the plane, using magnetohydrodynamics to shift around. They're even using magnetohydrodynamics to converge on the plane, to control the singularity, potentially even to control the size of the singularity. I think the letter at Ash and Forbes was right. They wanted me to know that we have this easy charge separation technology that creates these plasma balls, and we can just do anything with them. We can get infinite energy out of them. We can teleport shit with them. Imagination is the limit. What a world we live in. Let's bring it down. Let's dial it back. You know, I like to end on a lighter note, guys. So I'm just looking at this right now. Our moment of Zen tonight is going to be great. Wait, where's the other one? Damn it. We'll have to just go with this one. Our moment of Zen tonight, guys. Guys, girl boss summer. It's girl boss season, chat. It's coming back. You thought it was over. You were wrong. You think we've been reviewing science all night? No, that's not even real science, chat. This is real science, chat. Are you ready for it? Do you know what it's going to be? Guys, all of you, you've been wasting your time. Here's real science.
Got it?
Girl boss summer effect. Oh, here we go.
2, 3, take us
Oh, you're gonna hear me roar. Oh, yay. Go, Katy Perry. Oh, look at her go. Oh, look at this. Look at how artsy she's being. Oh, look at the flower.
I got you, Flynn.
Oh,
Gotcha.
This woman is terrified. Look at her. She is just not touching. Some of these people are just flipping around. Oh,
Oh, the moon. You guys,
Space is real,
I have
guys.
to tell you, look at the moon.
Space
That's
is real.
amazing. Wow, look at the blue line.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
Wow.
This is your moment of zen.
That's our pink moon. Okay. Now it's time to look out.
I like how she's just upside down, chilling.
Oh my
Space
gosh.
colors.
So much.
Absolutely wild.
Oh my gosh. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Guys, I hope you guys have a great night. That's your moment of zen. MH370X. Peace out. Peace out, 4 Orbsies. Love you guys. Let's talk Wednesday. We got a lot more science to chat. Talk about later, y'all. Peace.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Coulomb forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night with wormholes and stargates.